We are part of the Fired Up Sports Network of shows. Please check out other Fired Up Sports Network podcasts like the P-Lot Pod, Water Cooler Talk, Bell Smashers, Philly Sports Love and Pain, Drunk on Broad, Beer Battered Sports, and the Fired Up Sports Show, which are available on all major podcasting hosting sites and social media. Also, check out Mark Ramos' Roundup on firedupsports.com, which breaks down the happenings going on with all your favorite local teams.
The Philadelphia Eagles are Super Bowl champions.
Swinging a miss, struck him out. The Philadelphia Phillies are 2008 World Champions of Baseball.
Ladies and gentlemen, the Flyers are going to win the Stanley Cup. The Flyers win the Stanley Cup for the lead. Yes!
Iverson, wow, what a fake off Daniels as he broke his ankles and got all the way to the cup.
Oh, well, welcome in. It's episode 160 of Drunk on the Court, where we're talking all things Sixers. Mark, how's it going, brother? It's been an exciting, interesting
going good.
kind of week.
Yeah, it's been pretty good. I mean, ups and downs, but that's a part of an NBA season. And everything's been good, man.
Listen, they got the hot start. The hot start, they 8-1, and then they run into they look kind of iffy against the Pistons. That Pistons game starts out super slow.
Yeah,
They look a little funny, and they end up working it out. They end up winning by 8.
Mm-hmm.
They come home, play the Pacers. Another game where it kind of goes back and forth a little bit.
Right.
And then they get the back-to-back losses is, I think, what ends up turning people around, because they're looking at that. I think any time in the NBA that you play a team back-to-back,
Mm-hmm.
trying to take both ends of that back-to-back, regardless of whether you're playing both at home, I think is really, really difficult.
Yeah.
And then they lose they have the Celtics game where they go down, they fight, they battle. It late in the fourth, they have a chance to kind of take the lead, and nothing ever just formulates. And I think the ebbs and flows of an NBA season allow for these kind of things to take place. You're going to have times where you're going to lose games to the Pacers and Celtics, and then a game last night where you end up beating the Hawks. Like, every game in the NBA is a challenge, some a little bit more than others, but I think the idea that this early that there's a lot to worry about, I think is a little bit too soon.
Yeah, I think it's too soon as well. They got off to such a wicked start, right? That you had to think that throughout an 82 game schedule, there was going to be a little bit of a dip there. It's unfortunate that the game against Boston, all those things that you had said are legit, right? It's all a part of it. It's all fact.
Yeah.
The thing about it, though, is like, I think after, the way things went last year, Boston's been such an arch nemesis for the Sixers. I mean, they have a storied history and rivalry, but especially in recent years, it's just kind of like, Embiid's playing the role of Pedro Martinez, saying the Yankees are his daddy. It's kind of like what happens with Boston. They're down two big pieces too, so that made it difficult.
Yeah.
Derek White kind of gets hot late in that game, and but to go back to that Pacers game, this is kind of a sidebar type of thing, but going back to
the
that
win or the win or the loss.
I think it was the loss. I mean, I was
Okay.
impressed in both games, but um, I had already knew that like he was like a premier player in the league and stuff. But to sit down in 2 games and watch Tyrese Halliburton go to work in these games, I mean, he was 30 and 15, I think, in their win. Like that kid can ball. Like
Yeah.
he is a talent, and I knew he was good, but man, he could play. That
Yeah.
kid can
I
really
mean,
play.
he can really play, right? 30. So his line in the game that they win.
Hmm.
So the second game of the back to back, his line is 33, 15 assists, 7 rebounds.
Yeah,
Right from the guard spot.
yeah,
And then in the night, I'm going to look it up. The night before, he's looking at 25, 17, and 1.
yeah.
Right. So like
Like
to get that from your guard position. Here's the thing that I thought the entire time that I'm thinking about this. Imagine if this, because when the whole Harden trade, it's when they were trying to trade Ben Simmons, both of those trades, he was a guy that came up a couple times as
mhm.
trying to get dealt out of Sacramento, and it never happened with the Sixers. But I'm thinking, imagine if you had swapped him for Ben Simmons and the arc of that team, right? Because now you're looking at a guy that is a elite perimeter scorer next to a guy like Maxey with a guy like Embiid.
Yeah.
That, that's kind of where I was thinking about, right? But like,
Mhm.
talk about Adam's point right here, because the whole team scenario really, really does kind of tribute to Adam's comment right here with the having Nick Nurse play with them as a group.
Yeah. Yeah, I mean, um they look like such a cohesive unit. I mean, in this in his
Yep.
system, you know. Um just the other night, I think it was the Atlanta game, you know, Daniel House comes alive there
Yeah, late.
in that game. And you know, they've done such a good job. Like they ran a play, like a perimeter play. I think it was Maxey and Embiid in that game. And I mean, it was like one of the prettiest um like screen and roll plays I've seen them run in the Embiid era. Like it was
Yeah.
really, and that's playmaking. That's like call it like they're drawing that up on a whiteboard. You know, I'm sure that's been practiced.
Mhm.
And just like I'd love to. It was after one of Maxey's big performances to start the year, and I can't remember if they won that game or not. But I think it was after, and Ed Nurse was asked about it, and he was saying like, "Hey, he's been good, but it's not enough." And I love that. I love that he's kind of like,
He's
um,
needling him a little bit.
yeah, a little bit, and you know, not in a disparaging way or anything like that. Just he was just kind of like, "Hey, like you're in a new role now,
Right.
and we need you to do this every night, and we know you're capable of doing it every night." And
Right.
I just
It's that encouragement to elevate play.
yeah, yeah, and he's been such a positive, um, like he's a straight shooter too, which I love about
Yeah.
him. Nurse, he
Yep.
doesn't really beat around the bush too much, not even to the media. Like, he
Yeah.
doesn't, you know, you
Not at
don't see
all.
him get coy or anything like that. He's
It,
pretty,
it, it, it seems like it's pretty cut and dry, and
yeah.
that's the thing that I love about it. But like to talk, I want to like just. I know we're kind of bouncing through all these games through the last week, but like last
Mhm,
night, I liked what I saw late in the third quarter where he kind of stuck with the starters
mhm,
a little bit longer and riding that hot hand is something that we didn't see Doc Rivers do. Doc Rivers got so regimented in the like at this point in this quarter, I'm subbing this guy out for this guy. They're coming in. We're gonna really analytically look at the minutes,
mhm.
and that what I saw last night translates more to what I would know as like a basketball coach,
Right.
right? You You're watching the floor. You're seeing that these guys are hot. Ride the hot hand, and at some point know that you gotta kind of you gotta shift the minutes around another time. Yes, it makes it more uncomfortable for you as a coach because now you've got to make decisions about, all right, I'm gonna play him a little bit more here, so I'm gonna have to move this guy to this spot now. It's gonna change how we're gonna start the fourth quarter. But in the moment, I'm going to make sure that our best guys are on the floor right now, which I love, which is, it's a breath of fresh air considering the last handful of coaches that we've had have been so structured and so regimented.
Yeah. Yeah. And I'm a big believer in that as well. Like, I really, really embrace and want to see, I think a real hallmark to a coach that's really in lockstep with his group
Right.
is his ability to like be versatile and like as you said, like, hey, this guy's going, this guy isn't. Let me bump this guy's minutes up.
Right.
Like those kinds of things are in recent years, it's felt like, especially in the playoffs, it kind of felt like maybe the Sixers could have gotten a game or two in a playoff series where had they done that, or ultimately it comes down to your star guys,
Right.
When you need a bucket, like it's going to be on Maxey, it's going to be on Embiid to hit those shots, and that's a skill in of itself as well. Like,
Yeah.
Guys have to learn that in the NBA. That's something that's tried and true over any era, or if you're like if you're your go-to option in an offense,
Right.
you have to like kind of learn how to be the guy. I remember LeBron going through that, during the latter end of his Cavaliers run and then early into his Miami Heat run. If you remember that finals against the Mavericks, I mean, it was a thing made, I think it was like 2011. Was it 2011? I think they're playing the Mavs, and like JJ Barea is like in his back pocket the whole time, and he's like shutting down LeBron.
Wow.
And it was like LeBron was still learning though how to be
Yeah.
like the guy in that moment, and he has since done pretty well for himself. But I think guys have to like learn that at the end of the day. But Nurse seems like the perfect guy to push those buttons too. And
I mean, he really does seem like he's pushing the buttons to get these guys to play really cohesively, right? You're seeing Tobias Harris play a lot better than he's played in recent years.
He's been good.
Almost like akin to how he played early on in his career,
Mm-hmm.
right? Being really efficient, close to the bucket, able to get to the bucket a lot more efficiently than I've noticed in the past. In the past couple of years, he looks really cumbersome trying to get to the hoop.
Mm-hmm.
In these first handful of games, I'm seeing a guy who's being more aggressive, being more active at the rim, which is I love, right? Because he's a really efficient free throw shooter, so he's getting a lot of N1s.
Mm-hmm.
I really like what I'm seeing, right? And then the star of Tyrese Maxey is just like on a astronomical trajectory right now, because I think we'd be remiss if we did not touch kind of in depth the 50 burger that he drops. What an impressive game, man. And I'm sitting there, and that was that Sunday night? Maybe?
Yeah, it was Sunday night.
Sunday night. So I'm sitting there watching, I'm doing stuff, right? And my wife is walking in and out of the room, and I damn near scared the shit out of her because he does the Harden step back to hit the three that was what looked like 10 feet behind the 3-point line. And I'm screaming as she's walking in the room. And she's like, "It's a fucking basketball game. What the fuck are you doing?" And I'm like, he just scored 50. It was that game from him was wildly impressive. And to see the response from the other players around him,
Yeah.
really, it seems like everybody's cool with somebody else having a moment.
Yeah. Yeah. And that's that's a great part of it. I don't always think it's a prerequisite. Sometimes not you don't like everybody you work with, right? Sometimes that happens.
Yeah, yeah.
But it's only a positive thing when everybody just enjoys playing with each other and
It's
being,
true.
you know what I mean? It can't hurt it, but it only makes it better. And
Yeah.
man, he was that 50-point game. He was unconscious in that game. What an amazing effort.
He was truly able to just kind of get wherever, do
Yeah.
whatever, and did it really efficiently, right?
Mhm.
Because he's got 31 points in 35 minutes.
Yeah. I mean,
Still has, and even in a game. Wait, hold on, because I'm looking at the wrong game. I think I'm looking at it.
31 is still impressive in 35. I
31
mean,
still impressive. I'm like, wait. We're just talking. It's the 50-point game. I just pulled up the wrong box score.
you're gonna sift
Um,
through a number of crooked numbers for Tyrese, man. He's been
It's true. It's very true. Right. So he's got 50, still has 5 assists, 7 rebounds, and they don't have the full stat line here, but he also had some impressive blocks.
yeah, yeah.
His bounce, and while we're talking about bounce, it looks like Jaden Springer's got fucking springs in his shoes. Every time he jumps at the rim, man, he's up, like his arms are up in the box, like the top of the box. I'm going, like, this kid can play. I really feel like he's a guy on the bench that's gonna benefit from the veteran presence, but also the veteran coaching presence of Nick Nurse.
Yeah, yeah, I agree. Right before the season started, we had talked about Jaden Springer having, a bigger role on this team and what that role would look like. Um, the Sixers' newfound versatility and athleticism on the wing has been tested a little bit as
Yeah, yeah.
well. Like the Kelly Oubre situation, the Nico Batum being
Yeah.
being away from the team for personal reasons. Those are two main guys,
I mean,
and
listen, he was a guy, Oubre is a guy that we've talked about a lot, right? Where Kelly Oubre stands on this
yep.
on this show.
Kelly, come do the show.
And
Come do the show,
yeah,
Kelly.
right. Yeah, listen, I'm just want to say that, like, hopefully he's obviously on the road to recovery, spending a
Mhm.
lot of time at the facility. Looks like it's not going to keep him out as long as they maybe had originally anticipated. As a fan, just hope he gets better and hope he's back. But he really kind of elevated himself into that starting role, really really quickly. And I think they saw the benefit of the depth that this trade brought back in terms of the bench pieces, but also the flexibility on the outside.
Mhm. Yeah, exactly. And now that the depth's being tested a little bit,
Yeah,
it's like it's the old football adage, right? Next man up.
yeah,
Here's an opportunity now for Jaden Springer for the Sixers. This is an opportunity for Springer to prove that there's more to his game, but there's also an opportunity now, from an evaluation process standpoint, to see what you
correct.
have. And um, yeah. I mean, his athleticism, I mean, is pretty apparent. Like you mentioned that the hops and he can get up. He can get up.
It's wild.
Yeah.
And you see the youth, you see the times where he kind of gets in the weeds a little bit, looks a little lost, but I think that all comes from that those are things that you learn in the process of being involved in NBA games. But he excelled last year in the it's not the G League, it's the D League, or is it
Mhm.
whatever it is, the
Yeah.
developmental league, the NBA D League, right? So he gets a lot of on court experience, and I think that's really helping him right now.
Yeah, yeah, and it's like too. We hear this a lot, right? Like on a developmental side with basketball, like where, I mean, this is true for all sports, but I think for the way basketball is being played on, like even like a youth level or like an AAU level, or even a collegiate level, like guys that chances are when you get to the NBA, wherever you came from, you were the man. And you have to there's a role that has to be crafted. Like if you want to have a future in the NBA, you have to kind of figure out where you fit best, and then it's up to the coaching staff to help craft that role for you and be like, hey, these are your best assets and this is how you're going to help us win games, and you'll play a long time in this league if you learn how to do that. And as they're kind of figuring that out with Jaden Springer, it's been exciting because of as you mentioned, the athleticism is just something that is so abundantly apparent with him, that
he's young.
And he's young. Yeah,
Young.
he's young. So
he's 20. He was born, and I'm going to try to do the math here. He was born in 2002. So he's 21.
Yeah.
He's 21 and he's already got 3 years of professional experience. That's I'll take that.
There's just an 02 birthday makes me want to puke.
Oh God. Yeah. Yeah. It makes, I'm right there with you. Makes me, listen, as someone who's in their mid 40s, it makes me feel instantly old.
Yeah.
I get it. Yeah. 100%. But I love what I'm seeing from this roster. And I think this is my standpoint on this. I know there's a lot of Zach LaVine talk. I know that there's a lot of, I saw some stuff about Caruso. I'm with the way that they have this with this roster structured right now. I'm okay with kind of riding this one out. I know that there might be some tweaks to the back end of the roster because you're not getting a whole lot from Marcus Morris. You're not getting a whole lot from KJ Martin. But if you think about it, as the season winds down, as you start to go into the playoffs, right, that rotation gets a lot smaller.
Right.
So those guys at the end of the bench aren't really as nearly essential. They are now throughout the season. But I think the general gist of this unit, I really like what I'm getting. And I like the production that I'm getting. And I like the cohesiveness of the unit. And I think it'd be nice if they didn't have another adjustment to the roster that they then have to accommodate. I think getting that Harden deal done really early on in the season really kind of makes for the rest of the season to kind of give them a chance to all play together.
Yeah, and it was an important part. We've talked about that on previous shows.
Yeah.
With as they were trying to sift through the Harden melodrama that was taking place. It was kind of one of those things where we needed to get it done as early as possible, especially because then, guys got to learn the kind of, everybody knows each other, but it's one of those things where, chemistry is an odd thing and you have to kind of learn what what everybody does and to make it work. But yeah, to go back to the LaVine rumor, I mean, the Bulls are going to be an interesting team to watch because it seems like they're just ready to take an axe to their whole situation. And that seems like it's going to happen sooner than later.
I mean, they were having closed door meetings after game one. If that's not a red flag,
that's pretty first game of the season. And they're like, no media, everybody get in here.
And listen, they're not a team without talent though. That's the boggle. That's Vucevic is a talented guy to play center in this league. DeMar DeRozan can still fill it up and can still be an athletic wing on the and to me, that's a guy I would be interested in. Maybe get him for a little bit cheaper. But Alex Caruso is a productive player. He's not an elite player. He's not a roster changer kind of guy. But I honestly, in my mind, as talented as Zach LaVine is, he's also not won anything. And I'm getting a lot of Harden vibes in terms of I want to be on a really good team, but then I'm going to take my ball and go home. And I'm going to there's a lot of this melodrama from a star athlete who really hasn't ever won anything.
Yeah. And, I've heard and maybe the numbers back this up. I haven't gotten a chance to look at it, but that Levine is a player. He needs the ball to be effective, but it's not like to the extent of like a Harden situation. I was going to say, actually, when you were rattling off the names, I believe it was MGM Bet. I think it was MGM. I saw the odds for the Alex Caruso trade. That sounds like that might be the first piece to fall. The Sixers have the best odds to land Caruso.
Really?
And that was interesting because, as you mentioned, good player, not a star or anything like that, but he might even come cheaper than like a DeRozan. And Caruso's one of those guys too. Like, who did he come up with prior to the Bulls? Who was he with before that? Was it the
DeRozan?
Lakers?
DeRozan was
Caruso.
Yeah, LA.
It was with LA. And he was like one of those guys, remember? Maybe that comes with the territory of playing for the Lakers, but he kind of like reached like a cult hero kind of like, it was
Yeah.
oh, he could play a little bit. And
Reminds me a little bit of the guy they got now. They got a tall, lanky white guy that can score, and I can't think of his name off the top of my head. But like
Reeves.
Reeves, yes,
Reeves. Yeah.
Austin Reeves.
And yeah, and they say like LeBron loves Austin Reeves, like loves playing with him and stuff. And they have pretty, if you ever catch like a late game, they have pretty good like chemistry together. Like when they're on the floor together, they can play a little bit together. And you know, I can't think of anything better than your career than LeBron James saying he likes to play with you. So
Hey, listen, that's a sign of approval right there. Like,
yeah,
I
right.
love that. Like,
So the Caruso thing, like that actually might be like he might even come cheaper than DeRozan would, and
it wouldn't surprise me. And now with the draft capital that you got back from the Harden trade, it does give you a little bit of flexibility because you can trade picks that essentially you never, up until a couple weeks ago, you didn't have.
Yeah.
So if you can use those, and they are in a win now mode. So flipping those picks are non-essential. Like they are not. You're not bringing guys in. You're not going to be picking at the front end of the draft. Like those picks are going to be in the mid to late 20s. That guy is not coming in and making an impact. This guy could.
And that's like when you're in this predicament where like I think in a perfect world, obviously, like I think and I think that happens, like that's just a fan thing. I think like we all want them to have every asset, future asset, and we want them to also compete for a championship. But in reality, that's not how it works. And all that draft capital, as you mentioned, that's the cost of doing business. You know, today. That's the cost of doing business. And
I got the boss lady checking in from work.
Hey, get back to work, Lacey.
Lacey, you got babies to deliver. Come on now. Good Lord.
But
that's funny. That's funny. God.
But
look at Lace derailing the show from work.
Yeah, right.
But to get back to Alex Caruso, I think you're looking at a guy that could be a guy that would be impactful without completely derailing your roster.
Yeah, and as I'm thinking about, and Adam just mentioned it in the comments here about like rolling with this group. The more we see them, like it really does feel like that actually might be just a natural roster progression type of thing with the coach. And maybe Caruso could be an upgrade on a guy where we know like a guy like DeAnthony Melton can produce and contribute. And maybe he's one of your first options off the bench, and maybe Caruso starts if you acquire Caruso, and maybe it's an upgrade there. And then all of a sudden you get a little bit better in between the margins. And, if Nurse can continue to kind of push the right buttons, it's like there's no telling how far that group can go, considering how well they've played to this point. Yeah, guys like Maxey and all, he's going to have to continue to play at the level he's played at. Embiid's the reigning MVP, so we know what he's capable of when it matters. So it's like one of those things. But this is always, like, it's the cost of doing business. The picks are, as you said, the picks are non-quintessential at this point. We're trying to win a championship here and maximize these Embiid years, and that's what you do. That's what you do when you're title chasing, and this is the way it goes. And
this could be the kind of move that just slotting in that one player does give you the ability to kind of push all the other guys a little bit further down the line, that like it spreads the wealth a little bit, and maybe that talent pool in the playoffs goes to 8 and 9 rather than 6 or 7.
Right. And I remember when Nurse won the championship with the Raptors.
Yeah, I don't
that whole run. I think like for that run, they played 7 guys. Like
I would be really surprised. If they did, because I'm pretty sure that that idea is like spot on, because I remember you got a lot of production from like that. That was like when Fred VanVleet came on the scene. That was when God, I'm trying to remember some other guys.
Kyle Lowry was on that team.
With the
Siakam, Kawhi.
Was DeRozan on that?
No, he was gone by then, I think. They were getting minutes. Like Marc Gasol and Serge Ibaka were playing. Like for them, they were playing meaningful minutes for them, I believe, at the time. So, I mean, like they played. They played 7 guys in that run, and this Sixers team might, on paper at least, be deeper than that Raptors group. Just deeper in terms of like getting guys who can play meaningful minutes for you.
All right, Mark, I just pulled up the box score.
Okay.
You ready?
Yes.
And this was something that bothered me in the moment with them, was that Kawhi plays 43 minutes. Siakam plays 38. Marc Gasol played 45 minutes in Game 7. This is in Game 7. Lowry played 39. Danny Green played 30. Serge Ibaka played 29. Fred VanVleet only played 15 minutes in that game.
Yeah.
So they played 7 guys.
Yeah.
And I bet you if I went back to Game 6, Game 5, Game 4, right? In that game, you ready for this?
Yes.
Mike Scott played 11 minutes.
Yeah.
James Ennis III played 14 minutes.
Oh, geez.
JJ Redick played 40. Ben Simmons played 42. Joel Embiid played 45. Toby played 42. Jimmy played 43. Right, but look at the drop off. Right, you had you had your 5 starters.
Right,
but you had no one coming off the bench. You had Mike Ennis, Mike Scott, James Ennis, and blast from the past, number 55. Greg Monroe played 2 minutes in that game.
Oh man,
like in a Game 7 to go to the Eastern Conference Finals. Like you just didn't have the depth beyond your 5 guys, and that team was the team that was probably their best shot to win.
Yeah, I was at one of those games of that series. I don't remember what game it was, but I think it was the first time I saw Kawhi play live, and he was incredible. Like I had never seen him play live. I had seen LeBron a couple times during that Miami run down there and stuff, but that run Kawhi was on with that team, he was really, really good. And but yeah, I mean, like that was kind of like that run, that championship run for the Raptors. I mean, that was every bit as much of a quality coaching job as it was the talent. I mean, as you like when you go through those names and the 7 guys they played, I mean,
yeah,
and then they beat the Warriors. It wasn't like, you know what I mean? They didn't,
they beat the Warriors team that had, God, that was the year that they got decimated with injuries, correct?
Yeah, yeah, and it felt like I think at that time we were wondering if that was the demise of the Warriors. Boy, did they
Yeah,
turn that
Right.
on their head. They won again after that. So
right. But that team, like I'm going through that roster, right? I'm looking. Wait, hold on, because I'm looking at I need the 18-19 roster.
okay.
Like you just didn't have depth.
Mhm.
You didn't have depth beyond your starters, and
Yeah.
that really came back to hurt them. Now, listen,
Yeah.
before we jump out, I want to go back to something that Adam was asking us.
Yes.
What do you think of the floor
Oh, geez.
for the tournament games? Because I got to tell you, if the boss lady is still listening, if she doesn't like it, we got problems.
Yeah.
She looks at me, she goes, "What the fuck is that?" And she could care less.
Yeah.
He goes, "I can't even watch the game. Like it's so distracting." And if you like, I'm trying to pull up all the courts on there.
Yeah.
I hate this.
Yeah.
It's so distracting, and the uniforms are not consistent because like
No.
the city edition uniforms, you would think like, hey, for the tournament games, we're gonna wear the city edition jerseys, right?
Right.
Yeah. Like in one game, one team is wearing the city edition, the other team's wearing their regular one.
Right.
They go like the other like it's so distracting to me. Like when the three tournament games that they played the home game with the electric red court.
Yeah.
I could barely find the guys on, even though they were wearing the blue jerseys. They played at who did they play? They played Atlanta last night, where the court is blue. It's like light blue, and it's two shades of light blue.
Right.
Like felt like I was watching a little bit of Boise State on Saturday. Like it was with the blue turf. And then the other game they play in Detroit, and Detroit had, I'm trying to find it here. They had like a two-tone, it was red down the middle and gray on the top and bottom. And I'm going, y'all are trying too hard.
Yeah.
Like it's not that deep. Like
Yeah.
there's a way to distinguish, even if you had the red, the stripe down the middle, fine.
Right.
Cool with that. But like the red court, the black court, the Knicks court is orange. The
Yeah.
Lakers court is yellow. It's too much.
Yeah.
It's just too much.
The,
And I know they're trying to distinguish the games from each other from a regular season game. I just feel like there's a much better way to do this, because it seems like the general consensus across the internet is please make these things go away.
Yeah, I watched I think it was Lakers Suns a couple last week, I think maybe it was.
Okay.
I don't remember when they played. But I watched the game, and the Suns were home, and they were playing on like a purple court. And like, of course the Lakers wear purple and gold. And God, I was like, they wear like that.
Yeah.
I think the Lakers gold is different. It's a little bit, I think it's a lighter gold now. It's not like the Kobe Shaq era gold, I don't think.
No, it definitely feels like it's a different shade.
Yeah, it's like a different shade, I think, of gold. And but God, man, like the purple court and then like the Lakers uniforms, just like I was kind of like squinting on the couch, like watching.
Yeah.
And
Like you should not be making your product more difficult to watch.
I was like, oh geez, like watching it, and and like LeBron and KD are playing in this game, and it's like I want to see these guys, and I can't just I can't get over the court. This was the tournament in general. I don't even know if we've ever talked about it on here, but I don't know what to make of the in-season tournament thing. The final thing for it is in Vegas, correct?
Correct. And those
Yeah.
games are games that so all of the games that they're playing in this play-in round all count towards they're regular season games, but those specific games count towards who moves on into the knockout stage of this tournament. So right now it's considered pool play. whoever I think whatever teams are left at the top of each group advance to a knockout round. Those games are also supposed to be part of the regular season record, but the finals that are in Vegas are not.
Okay.
Which is because they can't guarantee that the team that's going to come out of the teams that come out of the East and the teams that come out of the West are going to have those games on their schedule already. So that's why they're not there. I know that they're trying to do something similar to what the Premier League, like what's happening in Europe with the soccer and I'm going to butcher this. Hopefully I'm getting it right. If I'm not, all you soccer heads can come at me. But like the CONCACAF Cup, like there are tournaments like this, but the difference between those tournaments and this is that those tournaments you're getting teams from different leagues. Those teams are not all from the same league. So that's what makes it special because they only play against those teams when those tournaments happen. Right. And I feel like this is this to me is like we're trying really hard. Like why? Like I don't love it.
Yeah. I
think it's kind of like, I just think it's like really, it's doing something just to do it rather than doing something for a purpose.
Yeah.
If you guaranteed a playoff spot to the winner, like whoever wins the play-in tournament not only gets the financial bonus, but also gets like, you can't guarantee the number 1 seed, but maybe you say they're guaranteed the number 2 seed or the 3 seed. Well, now there's something to play for. Right. Because you know that if you can guarantee yourself the number 2 or the 3 seed, regardless of what your record is, well, then there's an incentive for it. But
I guess their mentality, like their view of it is like, I guess people love something different. You know, people are loving something different, but I don't like. I don't know really what to make of it. There's nothing. I don't know that there's more. Like the NBA title has such a element of prestige to it, and it's playoff basketball. Running in the June for the title is, that's as good as the product gets. Really does. I mean, it also, sometimes I think you can say that for, maybe you could say that for all sports, depending on matchup and things like that. But I feel like, playoff basketball has its own kind of like baseball. Playoff baseball has its own kind of the game slows down. It becomes a little bit more methodical. And
definitely.
I appreciate that, Adam. Thank you.
Yeah, absolutely. Thank you, Adam.
But I struggle with the incentive part when how much is this really going to be celebrated? Team wins it in Vegas and it's or is this going to be a blimp on the radar thing? In a few years where we're looking back oh, remember that in-season tournament? That was terrible. You know what I mean?
I feel like this is going to be something that doesn't. I know the NBA is going to do their best to try to make it stick, but I'm trying to look it up right now. What happens? I'm trying to look out the payout. Whatever the winning. You ready for this? Now let's consider salaries here, right? Because it's gonna mean something for the guys at the end of the bench rather than your stars.
Yeah.
The winning players on the winning team get $500,000.
Wow.
So guys like Jaden Springer, guys like Furkan Korkmaz, guys like your guys at the end of the bench, that $500,000 is going to be life in terms of being a young NBA player. That could be double, triple your salary.
Yeah.
For Joel Embiid, that might go into the account where he pays his fines. the dynamic of like, so like you're incentivizing it for the guys at the back end of the roster, the guys who really aren't going to be playing.
Yeah.
You know, and are you going to put a banner up if you win the NBA in-season tournament? Like, does that go like to me? And this is going to be my final thought for today. If you win the in-season tournament, does it go with all the other Sixers banners, or does it go next to like the Wings and the Soul banners? Like,
and the Springsteen banner.
Maybe the Springsteen, Billy Joel, Soul, Wings, NBA in-season tournament. Like that to me is like where.
Yeah.
I don't know. It's just it's. I don't know.
Yeah.
That's my final thought. I don't know. Whatever.
Yeah. I'm with you. I don't know it's hard. It's hard to incentivize these guys to like want to do it. They can't even get everybody on the floor for, marquee matchups, where guys are, it's a load management day, and it's like, and I'm not even knocking the idea of load management. It's just that like, I'm with you. I don't know. I don't know what to make of it. And that's a good question. Like, what do you do? Like, like with, is there a trophy for this?
There is. So if you look on the courts, what's in between the free throw line is essentially, it's called the NBA Cup. So it's like a half of a ball that's hollowed out on the inside.
Yeah.
I mean, again, I feel like
you
we're
put
trying
that
to really
you put that with the NBA titles and all. And it's like, man, maybe
the season tournament in 23 was something.
Something's going to have to happen, like in the in-season tournament, where like it makes it super memorable. I don't know what it is. I hope it's not like a Malice at the Palace thing, but it's like
Jesus Christmas. If they do that shit might get canceled.
Yeah, right. Like it's just like, like something crazy is gonna have to happen, I think, to like
most definitely
be like, oh, you gotta watch this. Like, but I don't know. We'll have to wait and see.
Just wow. Well, listen, hang on the other end of this commercial. You'll be back for episode 161 of Drunk on the Ice, but we'll catch you on the back end. Go Sixers.
Von C Brewing Company is a 20-barrel, 16,000 square foot microbrewery with a 2,500 square foot tasting room, including a spacious outside beer gardens in Norristown, PA, in the heart of Montgomery County. The Von C family is part of the family that started C. Schmidt and Son Brewing in 1860. Stop in Wednesday through Sunday and taste a variety of draft and 16-ounce cans of originally brewed beer and tell them the Drunk on Broad crew sent you. Von C Brewing is located at 1210 Stenbridge Street, Suite 300 in Norristown. Cheers.
Team Clicks are the only glasses for real sports fans. With interchangeable arms, you can support all of your favorite teams, or even make and create custom options as well. These die-hard sports fans have realized that sports fans needed something other than face paint to show their love and passion for their teams. Go to teamclicks.com/DOB and show your love for your hometown team.
La Torrance curated collection of men's and women's watches is a perfect investment that lasts for years to come and fits perfectly with your every outfit and style. Our range of classic watches aren't just a great perfect formal and casual accessory, but a time machine that takes you back to memories. Explore our collection of timeless watches that can reflect your taste, personality, and personal style. Our exclusive collection of carefully curated, affordable luxury watches is what you need to make a personalized style statement. You can take pride in your prized possession, handing it over to the next generations as your most loved asset that they can also own and display with the same pride. These high-quality pieces stand the test of time, giving exceptional value and return on your investment. Go to la-touraine.com and use code DOB at checkout and get 10% off.
If you're looking for unique sports apparel, check out Streaker Sports. They've dug deep into the archives and have brought back some incredible defunct team logos and have even created entire defunct league collections. They also have collections paying homage to sports culture, including the Miracle on Ice, Slap Shot, Caddyshack, the Mighty Ducks, and even have a license with Wiffle Ball and USA Hockey. Only for Drunk on Broad listeners, use code BROAD at checkout to get 10% off anything at streakersports.com. Again, that's 10% off anything at streakersports.com with discount code BROAD.
Iverson, wow, what a fake off Daniels as he broke his ankles and got all the way to the cup.
Ladies and gentlemen, the Flyers are going to win the Stanley Cup. The Flyers win the Stanley Cup.
Ooh. Well, we're in. Little wardrobe change.
Yeah.
Got episode 161 when Drunk on the Ice. And now we're talking all things Flyers, Mark. Really, really, really impressed.
Yeah.
I'm loving this, like, not having a ton of expectation level of watching these games because I got to tell you, the vibe that I'm getting out of this team really makes me feel good about the trajectory of this team and puts me light years ahead of where I was last year. Because last year it was like pulling teeth to try to figure out what was positive about this team. But this team is playing really well outside of the blip of being the only win on the San Jose Sharks schedule at this point. Like they responded really well, right? You lose that game in San Jose, you come back and you win 2 in California. You go at Carolina and you win. Really, really impressive.
Yeah. Yeah. First of all, that's a beautiful jersey, by the way.
Oh,
Lindros.
you ready? Can you the number? You know the guy?
Yeah, it's an Eric Lindros Big E jersey, right?
That's an 88. I had to pull this one out of the closet.
That is beautiful.
I'm a jersey connoisseur. I hope my wife is not listening, but we've got a lot. Good thing I found a website where I don't have to pay full price.
Yeah, right there. They can be an expense.
I'm holding off on the next one though.
Yeah.
I'm gonna wait a minute because the next one I feel like the next one could be around for a little while. So I'm gonna wait. I'm gonna wait for a color. I'm gonna wait for a specific player, a number.
Yeah.
And once I get confirmation on that,
I feel the same way. With the jerseys and stuff. I definitely have. I'm waiting for my next Flyers jersey, right? But I really good road trip for them, man. After the San Jose game, right? It was just like, oh, what a Flyers ass way to start off. Start off this trip, like just and it was just. It's one of those games you go into it and it's like you see it on the schedule and you're like, and I think that all fans feel that way, right? But it was like, oh, that's gonna be us. That's gonna be us. We're gonna drop that one, right? And they did, and it was that was embarrassing, losing to a winless team at that point, and they can't stay winless for the entire season, but it's just like you don't want to be the first team. It's never a good feeling. But they followed that up with a really good game in Anaheim against the Ducks team that's been off to a surprisingly good start as well.
Yeah.
And man, they took to go to that Ducks game really quickly. The Ducks they turned some heads on draft day. A lot of people thought they were going to go with Adam Fantilli with their pick. They went with Leo Carlsson instead.
Yeah.
And, not that Leo Carlsson wasn't a good prospect or anything like that, but I think a lot of people thought Fantilli was going to follow up Connor Bedard in this draft and this past draft. And, man, like that was the first time I had really gotten a good look at him. I know that they played them earlier in the year as well, but he's going to be a terror in the NHL. Leo Carlson, he's going to be an absolute terror.
He looked like he could get anywhere, right? 3
Yeah.
goals on 5 shots.
Yeah,
Like,
he was a beast in that game, and he looks like he's going to be a good one, a really good one. Yeah, so they played well in that game. They were able to, the Ducks are kind of like in a similar boat to the Flyers. They might have a little bit more high end talent at this point than the Flyers do, but the Flyers play a pretty good team game, and that's been a hallmark this year. They beat a really good, and as you mentioned, they beat a really good Kings team in LA, and then came to Carolina and beat a really good Canes team in their building. And the Canes play the Hurricanes play such a they play such a attack oriented game,
yep.
and they can really turn a game ugly on you, if you're turning pucks over and things like that. But the Flyers did a really good job in that game, and Hart was terrific, and it's really kind of been the hallmark. And as you mentioned about the expectation part, that's kind of like the exciting part about it, right? Is like I feel the same way. I kind of I haven't gotten too high or too low with losses. I mean, the San Jose loss was embarrassing, as we said, but like I haven't gotten too high or too low, and it's been enjoyable watching them win when you're really not expecting anything from them. It's actually a nice place to be, I think, as far as like a fan. So
I listen. I love. Well, I really enjoy watching this team. This team, they play hard. You can see that they've kind of put it in their mindset that like you're not going to be able to kind of roll into a game with this team and kind of mail it in.
Yeah,
you're gonna earn, if you're gonna get the points for the win, you're gonna earn every bit of it. You're gonna earn it on every shift, and that's something that this fan base can identify with. Sure. If there's a fan base that will identify with anything, this fan base in Philly will identify with effort.
Mm-hmm.
You put effort, we'll ride or die with you. The second that you feel like you're mailing it in, we're out. Bye. Which is essentially what happened in the middle to the end of the year last year. It felt like everything was being mailed in. And that's where like the production that you're getting from Konechny and Sanheim and Atkinson at the top, really hard to argue with, the fact that they're 10 games in right now?
Yeah, I think it's around that.
They've got 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. They got 7 guys with double-digit points already.
Yeah. You mentioned Travis Sanheim. What a great start to the year for him. I mean,
right
after the Provorov trade and stuff, I mean, it really kind of it became a real big question, I think, with the group of like, who's going to take those minutes.
Right.
Cam York has done as good of a job as I think a young defenseman can do in a top pair role at this point. But Sanheim's been really, really effective. And he's really he always had the tools, but it was always kind of like his game would be too up and down. And there's, this year there's been less and less downs with him. He's been pretty effective. There's been a lot made, I think, of like the fact that he put on significant muscle mass this year. They talk about it frequently on the broadcast, that he's put on some weight and things like that. He was always a big guy, but
right.
It was like, that's one of the things that, like, in a best case scenario, if the Flyers were going to be competitive this year in any capacity whatsoever, a player like Sanheim would have to step up in the role. And so far he has, and that's been exciting. And
yeah, absolutely.
And it's like a two-way game. It's not like too offensively geared. I think he's been playing really well. And one of his best assets is carrying the puck, skating the puck in. you just see the confidence, and you see it with a lot of guys. You see it with a lot of guys that, connect these off to another really good start. Man, Hart's been terrific. He's missed some time here and there, but he was nicked up, I think, at the beginning of the road trip. Then he had food poisoning, apparently, so he missed a couple games. And
but we got to make sure the stuff you're eating is not past the expiration date, there, dude.
Yeah, well, he said they asked
that mid body injury was. I don't think we viewed it as internal.
Yeah, I think he put it. They said he was like, "Oh, I had bad fish," which is like, we don't need to know all that. Like, just we know you were sick. Right? Like, what do you
just get right? Like, let's keep it in the hockey injury category. I was
just like,
an undisclosed injury. But no, Carter Hart been playing like in the 9 games that he's played. Really, really impressive.
Mm-hmm.
Impressive in terms of the confidence that you see. You're not seeing night to night the battles, the mental battles that we saw last year. His save percentage is at .921. He's got 2.34 goals against. He's got 1 shutout. Like you're seeing the really, really good production out of Carter Hart. The guys behind him, I don't know if I'd necessarily talk about them so glowingly.
Yeah, they were. Sam Erson's been a little up and down this year. He's had his moments, and Erson, I know, is a goaltender the Flyers are very high on. They really like him, and he was really good last year for them when he played. I think moving forward as like a tandem here that you could do a lot worse.
100%. Yes.
Yeah. And, can't even Cal Peterson. I mean, I think he stepped in that LA game on the road, and I think he was in for that game. Did he play both LA games? I think. And
he's played 2 games.
The game at what's it, the Forum now? The Kia Forum, like wherever they play, the Kings. He was really good in that game. He was good in that game. I know he's been, it was nice to get him in there in spot duty and it not be a total disaster. Like, he was actually pretty good. And, to go back to like Hart, I think I think one of the things that are really, really special about him is like technique wise. I mean, he's as good and technically sound as there is. Like, he's very like, when he's got his game going, he looks 10 feet tall in there. Swallows up everything, very little rebound.
Gives you shades of like Carey Price kind of.
Yeah. I mean, that's always been like the comparable, but they're like pretty apropos. Like when you watch him play, like you can kind of see that. Like Carey Price was a guy that was always very like low panic level, and I think Hart has a lot of that in goal as well. But he's been terrific, and these are guys that, like, if they were going to be better than we had anticipated, these are guys like Sanheim and Hart and guys like that. They were going to have to be better than we were thinking of them being better this year. And so far they have been, and that's great. Like, maybe we can arrive to maybe they'll arrive to their destination sooner than expected if that's the case. Right. So.
Yeah. I mean, listen, and then, as Adam's bringing up, the play of Owen Tippett early on, he's the 5th leading scorer for this team right now. But you're seeing the reason why he was essentially the centerpiece in that Giroux deal, where they almost like Florida didn't have a spot for him, but that doesn't necessarily mean he didn't come without talent, and he's been really impressive early on.
Yeah, Tippett has been he's another one. He's had his moments up and down this year. I do think, like when we look at the decision making of the coaching staff, I think there's been some, the guys are in and out right now, younger players. We can
Yeah.
talk about whether or not they should or shouldn't be. Tippett's one of those guys, though. He's been afforded the opportunity to play through his low points this year. And, one thing about him, I think, is like skating ability is always like he's a much better skater than I thought. When he got here, I did not think that he was as good of a skater. He's pretty good straight line speed and things like
Yeah.
that. Obviously, the plus shot. But Tippett's a player too. I think like he needs to be with someone who can get him the puck in spots where he can really let it go. And he's getting his game back in order. And I
Right.
don't think that it's a coincidence that he's him and Morgan Frost are together. Frost is more of a pass first guy. Tippett's more of a shoot first guy. They play off each other well. They played off each other well last year. So I think coming into this season, and now that Tippett's games, it looks like it's coming together a little bit more here. I think him and Frost together, I think it's something that works, and it's something they should continue to stay with, because both guys, I think, are on point streaks right now. So,
I believe so. You're right. You make anything of the Bobby Brink drama?
I think that there's I think John Tortorella, as much as we've been complimentary of him on here, and we have, I think in the past, we've talked a lot about the positive influences he's had on the team, and he has had a lot of positive influence on the team. Make no mistake about that.
Absolutely.
But I think sometimes, in a rebuild, I need a coach that's going to be a little bit more adaptable. I think John Tortorella develops really streamlined opinions of players, and he doesn't deviate from those. And it's usually guys that are like smallish playmaking types that end up in his doghouse. A player like Tyson Forrester has, young player. He's had his moments this year as well, ups and downs and things like that. But again, much like Tippett, he's been given the opportunity to play through those ups and downs, whereas guys like Frost and Brink haven't really been able to.
Right.
They end up out of the lineup. And they both have, Frost and Brink have an ability. They possess skill sets that the team doesn't have enough of right now. And that's just
you're not wrong.
Vision,
Absolutely.
creativity with the puck, and playmaking. So, I don't like to see him out multiple games. You want to get him a game out where he's watching in the press box a game. That's fine. I think when it starts to become 2 games, 3 games, I get a little bit more concerned with that.
Right, because you worry about the precedent that you're going to set, right? Like,
yeah,
and I think when you're trying to develop this talent in the way that they are, the last thing you want to do is put I'm all for the accountability, but I think the last thing you want to put in a guy in a young player's head is them constantly playing like the next mistake is going to cost them 2 games
right
internally. Like you want them to be able to go out and play their game and be productive. But we also understand that this is sports and mistakes happen. You can't have a guy in any professional sport going out and playing scared to make the next mistake, because then I feel like you're not getting an authentic play. You're not getting the true value of that player when he's on the ice. Because in this case, like I need Bobby Brink to just go out and play. I don't need him thinking. I don't need him to go out and be worried about the next shift. Is the next pass that I make, if it's just off, or if it puts the other team in a scoring opportunity, is that going to cost me? And then I'm going to be sitting up in the press box for 2 days. I don't need a guy especially from a young guy.
Yeah, and I totally agree with that. I think that's a criticism that I think a lot of people have right now. It's kind of like the Flyers have made it a mission of a rebuild, and it's kind of like, part of what comes with a rebuild is leaning on young players to kind of produce. And I think Briere, like to go to the general manager, like with Danny Briere coming into the season, he did kind of backfill the roster with veterans. And it's kind of, it's his job now to kind of figure out, like, he's going to have to sift through it and kind of create some space for
Right.
some of these young guys to play. You know what I mean? Like, as you said, to allow them, to afford them the opportunity and the ice time to just go out there and play their games. And, you know, unfortunately, you know, and there's probably no greater lesson than, you know, playing in an NHL game, making a mistake with the puck, and it immediately ended up in the back of your net to realize that you can't do those things at this level. You know what I
Right.
mean? So, you know, and that's player development. There's peaks and there's valleys. And, you know, I don't, you know, it's an interesting situation right now because they kind of have like this rookie rotation kind of going on. They're doing it on
Yeah.
defense as well. Igor Zamula's had ups and downs too. And
there's a little bit of ESP going on because literally the guys that I'm looking at, the next thing I wanted to talk to you about was this young rotation of defensive guys that have been kind of in and out of the lineup. Not, you know, like a guy like Zamula, right? A guy like Belpedio has been, you know, in short spurts, right?
Yeah.
You're talking about like 3-4 games, like. They've been productive. And I think that's what you want to see when these guys get opportunities to come in and play, that these are guys that are going to get opportunities and they're going to take advantage of them.
It's been so awesome. We should talk about Louis Belpedio and his
let's do it.
You know, pretty much a career AHL guy to this point, and has played like legitimately well.
27, right?
Yeah.
So not a guy at 22, 23, but a guy that's got some experience, a guy that has bounced around a little bit. But I won't fault a guy for just coming in and being productive.
Yeah. He's been great, and he's like producing points, like, you know.
Yeah.
And it's like he's been a nice story this year for them. And, you know, I can't help it. You know, I have a soft spot in my heart for players like that. I
think that's a Philly thing. We're always the suckers for like the Tony Rotens and the Chris Coasts, right?
Yeah.
The guys at the back end of the roster that like come in and have like a big moment. Like,
yeah,
I think that's a Philly. That's one of our Philly flaws is like falling for that everyman guy. But yeah, go ahead.
Yeah. No, you're exactly right. I think it totally is. And I love Chris Coast and Tony Roten. I remember one time I was actually in college and I saw I was on Spring Garden Street and I saw Tony Roten come down just randomly on an Escalade. It was Tony Ray. He was just driving down Spring Garden.
That's great.
And I was like walking out of the building and I was like, oh my God, that's Tony Roten.
That's funny.
I don't even think people realized that it was him, but he had the windows down and everything. It was funny.
Almost like looking for people to notice him. I got you.
Yeah. But yeah, he was a cold hero here, right? Same thing with Chris Coates. But I think, like mostly a career AHL guy to this point, but has played legitimately well in a lower pair role for the Flyers. And as I said, he's like producing points, which is even kind of like even better, you know?
Yeah.
And then like we were going to talk about Igor Zamula, and he's one of these guys too. Like the physical package is very intriguing. Like,
oh, absolutely.
You know, big lefty shot defenseman, smooth skater. But he's made some mistakes out there. I think he took a delay game. He's taken a couple delay game penalties this year, just firing the puck over the glass.
Yeah. Let's change the trajectory a little bit.
Yeah. And I think that's, you know, that kind of goes with the mistake point, right? That you were making, Don, like about just kind of, you don't, you do it one time and it's like, it was a mistake.
Right.
When you start to do it more than once, I feel like that becomes like a mental thing. Like you're thinking about it.
Right.
And you're maybe afraid to go all high off the glass with the puck. You end up just shooting it over the boards anyway. you're thinking to yourself, oh, that's going to buy me a game in the press box, like,
Right.
in
Yep.
the popcorn suite. And, you know,
Yeah.
so
No, you're right.
that's tough. And, I'm cool with, and I think it's a necessary part of a rebuild. Like, I'm cool with having young players earn their ice time. I think that the question that could be had right now with the Flyers is a lot of their young players have earned the ice time, and they're struggling still to find a spot in the lineup for them. So ultimately, that's going to fall at the feet of Danny Briere to kind of figure out how to create a spot for some of these guys.
Right.
But Samola's been up and down too. But I really like the I really like the physical package there. Like, the smooth skating, he's surprisingly physical. Like, I kind of like that about him. Below the dot, he's kind of he's not afraid to kind of throw his weight around. I do enjoy like a player that, and I think John Tortorella appreciates players that are like that as well. So I'm happy with that. But I mean, his play, he's kind of like in one of those lulls right now. We talk about peaks and valleys. He's kind of in a valley right now.
Yeah. What about a guy like Hathaway? Because he's another guy that, like, he's he's on the more he's more of like the veteran guy, 32, but a guy who's played in all 16 games, is not necessarily giving you a ton of offensive production, but I feel like that doesn't make him not a productive player.
Yeah, his games, I think, like, if you're getting offense from Garnet Hathaway, it's kind of like a bonus. Like, he's more.
Right.
I remember when they signed him over the summer, and I was kind of surprised by that. I believe he got a 2-year deal. He's under contract this year and next. But I thought it was interesting because, like, he's actually kind of a player that is, like, he's a useful player, especially for like a cup contending team. I don't know if, like, later in the year he's going to be someone who's going to. I'm sure maybe the Flyers might get some calls about him for a team looking for some toughness.
I wouldn't be surprised.
But he can play a little bit. He's not like just straight sandpaper out there. He can actually he could play. He could play a little bit, and I think he's got pretty good defensive impact numbers. So he's kind of like a checker / kind of I think he PKs as well, so he plays the penalty kill. And he's not like devoid of talent, but he's a good, like, just a good fourth line guy. And I think they see what he does as like an essential part of the identity they're trying to build. Kind of like a meat and potatoes kind of grinder type player.
Yeah.
And a hard worker, on top of it. So, but you get the same could be said about like a player like Ryan Poehling, who's like a fourth line center for this team. He's another one. Like, they signed him, but he's a former first round pick and he's only 24 years old. So I think they've been trying to find a spot for him to see like what exactly they have in him. You know what I mean? As a player.
Yeah. He was the next guy on my list to talk about.
Man, we are like just on.
It's lockstep. I'm literally. I got the mouse right on his stat line.
I think this is just. Have we done too many shows together? I don't know what this is, but
maybe that's a good that's a good sign to me.
Yeah. No, for sure.
But yeah, but I mean, he's a guy, right, in who has played 13 out of the 16 games. The numbers don't jump off the table, but you can see him in a productive role on this team, which is I think the theme of all these guys that we're talking about is that you're getting production, and you're getting the more that they can be productive, the more that they're going to be competitive. I think the productivity that you see leads to them being competitive in these games, and I think no better showplace than the last game that they play when they play Carolina, and they go down there And Carolina is a team that is consistently at the top of this conference. And not only did they hang with them, but they kind of controlled the puck and controlled that game for most, if not all, that game from the jump.
Yeah, and that's tough to do, I think, against like a Carolina team that's so like they kind of play like that hunt the puck style.
Yeah.
You know, they can make your life miserable. If you're turning pucks over at your blue line, the red line, and the neutral zone, Carolina will jump all over you. And the Flyers were very, very they were good. As you said, they kind of dictated the pace. And they've done that against some quality teams this year. Like there's been moments this season where maybe, you know, maybe coming into this year, maybe we were selling them a little bit short. Maybe they're a little bit better than we thought. You know, that would be great. I would love to be pleasantly surprised, you know, at you know, the fact that this team's a little bit ahead of that where maybe we thought that they were. But I think as long as you have guys, like we talked about the young players, as long as those guys are contributing during this, I think that's a positive sign for what we're considering the rebuild. It's one thing when you're winning hockey games, and maybe that's counterproductive in a rebuild. But if you're winning with young players, I really can't complain about that. You know, if Carter Hart's playing really well, 24-year-old goaltender, a good young goalie, I can't get mad about that. You know what I mean?
No, not at all.
You know,
I will not get mad about that. Anybody else on this roster you want to talk about? I feel like it's only remiss if when we're done talking about this roster, we talk about the future a little bit because, you know, I got an account that I'm following that I can't get enough of the Cutter Gauthier highlights on Boston College. He's a guy who just looks like he could be here sooner than later with as productive as he's going to be as he's been at Boston College. I'm literally watching highlights as we're talking because he's got the overtime winner. Just against who is it? They're playing UConn.
Yep.
He's just a guy who just at this level just looks to be able to be insanely offensively productive and is not going to, how do I make this comparison with it? In a sense, he's like James Harden. He's never met a shot he didn't like.
Yeah. He's going to be met with quite a bit of fanfare, I think, when he gets here, which is going to be soon. I mean, I think a lot of people are anticipating that at the end of the NCAA season, he's going to join the Flyers. And that's very, very exciting.
That to me, that's going to put that'll put some extra people in the seats in the spring.
Yeah. Yeah. And, so it'll be interesting, to see, you know, him get here because he's been dominant at the NCAA level. Dominant.
Oh.
Over the summer too. I mean, I watched him play for Team USA at the World Championship over the summer, and the summertime tournaments, they're a little bit like guys are coming up. You know, it's a lot of players from teams that were eliminated from playoff contention and all. They go over play a summertime tournament in Europe, and he was on that team. He was on Team USA, and he had some really good games. And he just looks like he looks like he's ready to compete against the next level. And like the shooting's a big part of it for him. Like, I think we're still, I think the one question with him is kind of like, we don't know quite yet, I think, what he's going to be at the next level. He can play wing and center. I don't know if he's playing wing at Boston College, at BC. I'm not sure. He might be playing center.
Yeah, I'll look it up while you talk.
Yeah, I'm not really sure how they have him listed. But at the NHL level, that'll be interesting about where he'll fit. And as we were talking about, like, the roster being backfilled and things like that right now, it'll be interesting to see where exactly they'll have him when he inevitably comes and plays for the Flyers. So because the Flyers could use the help down the middle, I think they could use the help at center. But at the same time, the roster's not terribly overwhelmed with depth at the left wing spot. So maybe you can put him at on the wing. I'm not really sure where he's gonna, you're obviously gonna make a spot for him. It's not like,
Yeah.
But
Right now they got him listed as a forward.
yeah. So I'm probably just they have him listed as a forward because he's playing two different spots. So
Yeah.
they're just generally using forward. But I think that'll be an interesting thing to watch. I'm not really overly concerned about where he'll play, but it'll be interesting to see how the lines shake out once he gets here, and to see who they put him with and how he's able to play off of guys. Because, we kind of briefly talked about Morgan Frost, and his playmaking, crafty playmaking type. I feel like a player like Cutter Gauthier would just him and Frost stylistically would hit it off.
Yeah. You're looking at a guy right now who's sitting 11 games into their season with 14 points.
Yeah.
So you're talking about a guy who's, over a point per game.
Yeah. Yeah.
He's
and
being really, really productive.
The NCAA is a good league too. There's a lot of talent in the NCAA now. College hockey,
Absolutely.
I think, is getting college hockey. I think just in general is getting better and better.
I feel like as that game spreads across the U.S. a little bit more, right? It is not just a purely Northwest East Coast sport.
Mm-hmm.
You look at even a guy like we're talking about right now, like Gauthier is a kid from Scottsdale.
Mm-hmm.
You're seeing there have been guys that have been drafted from the Southwest, part of the U.S. I think the more that it becomes spread out across the U.S.,
mm-hmm.
I think that only increases the talent pool, especially for even the U.S. developmental league, right? The more the talent pool grows, it's like that rising tide raising all boats.
Mm-hmm.
It's making the overall product significantly better.
Yeah, the United States developmental program has really turned out they're a juggernaut now.
It's impressive.
Yeah, and you mentioned Gauthier being from Scottsdale. I mean, Austin Matthews, who's a big star in the league, he's an Arizona kid. So, those things are great for the game.
Absolutely.
They're great for the game. They help grow the game in areas that you wouldn't think would have it. And as we know, because we're both fans, it's a great sport. It's a great game, and if you have the opportunity to learn how to play it, it's a really cool game. And, so as it kind of grows and all these American players are kind of coming through now, it's really, really good for the sport. And even when you think about pro players that their kids grow up here and they're American.
Yeah.
And then
you're seeing that wave.
Yeah. And I think Sean Couturier was that. Sean Couturier is also an Arizona-born kid. I think his father was playing minor hockey in Arizona. So he's got – Coots might have dual citizenship or something like that. He's Canadian, but he was born in Arizona. So –
interesting.
Yeah. So, that's really good for the sport. Yeah. It's really good for the sport.
And listen, I think we'd be remiss if we didn't have a Mitch Koff minute, right? To kind of keep track of his progress, right? So now, as of a day ago, in the KHL in 26 games, 11 goals, 13 assists, 24 points, almost a point per game in a league. And I think it's important to remember the league that he's playing in is full of adults. Yeah. This is not an OHL. This is not a developmental league. This is not college. This is the Russian version of the NHL.
Mhm.
And you're talking about a guy who's at the top of the leaderboard in points in a league where hypothetically he doesn't age-wise doesn't really belong there.
I think about like with the Mitchkoff thing, and I think maybe like casual Flyers fans or maybe like Philadelphia sports fans that the Flyers are kind of like on the lower end of their interest level, but they'll support the team when the team's winning or whatever. I don't think people realize the soon to be impact that he's going to have here. It's very similar. Like, yeah, you got the Lindros jersey on, right? Like, it's very similar to the fanfare, I think, for hockey fans that like this is a highly anticipated player making his way over here in a few years. And
Gotcha.
he's the fact that he's so young and producing at like almost a point per game level in a serious league like the KHL
Yeah.
is so exciting for the future. I'm sure the Flyers have somewhat of a long-term outlook of what the roster will look like in 2 to 3 years, who may be here, who may not be here, whatever.
Right.
And I'm sure they have Mitchkoff penciled in there on that first line right wing spot.
Right.
And man, I see those highlights too. I'm following as much of it as I can of him. And I'm just like, man, this kid's going to be an absolute player when he gets here. And it can really kind of like raise the profile of the team and have a piqued interest in this group that they haven't had, like kind of like a buzz around them that they haven't had, even if they had good teams,
Right.
Just having like this, like for the, any of our other teams, like a Hertz or a Harper or an Embiid or anybody like that. Just kind of like this, no matter what your interest level is in the sports, you have a vested interest in that player because of their personality, whatever it is. Like you may know nothing else about them, but Bryce Harper, or Joel or Jalen,
You look at the impact that the young guys at the top of this draft are having even on their roster now, right? Like you look at the impact that that's had on the Ducks. You look at the impact that Bedard has had on Chicago and that fan base. It reinvigorates that fan base to be able to get behind that team now. And I think, the nice thing about adding Mitchkoff and Gauthier in the upcoming years, it's gonna be an inflection point where they're ready to, keep the guys that they've kind of worked out that they like, move on from the guys that they know are not pieces moving forward. But that inflection point where that are not inflection, but that mesh point where that inflection of new talent is going to join the group that has already been working together, I feel like it's also going to happen at a time where Carter Hart is a guy that is going to be in his later 20s, which is, we know in the NHL for goalies is a more important part, like not their early 20s, but like that 25, 26, 27, when you're a seasoned vet, you've had the experience, and now you've got the talent in front of you.
Mm-hmm.
Really looks like it could be a good inflection point for them to kind of move right into that top end of the East.
Yeah. That's really, really fun to think about. Like
it is. It
really is fun. It's fun to think about because, if Cutter and Metivi Mitchkoff are this, franchise building blocks, you look at some other guys that have been a part of this that have had positive influences. We didn't even talk about Joel Farabee, who's having a really, really nice, quiet, just quietly effective year where, some nights I think he's one of their best players, even, if he's on the score sheet or not. Travis Konechny has grown up and has become a quality player, leader on this team.
Yeah.
That's been great. They've gotten great production from guys like Noah Cates, who, has made, he's been kind of up and down this year. He's had a quiet year, but what he does away from the puck, the work he does away from the puck is really important. We talked about Owen Tippett. He looks like he has the ability to be like an ancillary kind of like secondary quality goal scorer on a team like this.
Oh, yeah.
And then, you look at Hart, and then you drop these guys in who have like face of the franchise level, like ability. It could snap together really quick for them,
100%.
and that part is super exciting. It's really exciting. And, we know at least Cutter's going to be here sooner than later. But I think Mitch Scott's going to be worth the wait for sure. So
100%. I might have to hold out for that, Josie. I know Mike kind of moved on it real fast.
Yeah, he went right out.
He went right out. That's a huge get, Mike. And listen, I hope the number works out. I hope it all works out. But that's like the anticipation of those guys moving forward. It's just really exciting to see. Mark, anything for final thoughts on on our way out of here?
Ready for Thanksgiving. I love Thanksgiving. It's it's one of my favorite times of the year, spending time with family and stuff like that. And as I've gotten older, I have a greater appreciation for it, I think, and spending time with loved ones and stuff like that. So I'm really looking forward to that this year, and just watching football and hanging out and stuff in my face for sure.
Yeah. Hey, listen, I feel you on that note. I love the thing that I love about Thanksgiving is that it doesn't involve any presents. It doesn't involve exchanging anything. It's just about being around family. So listen, and I know that, I feel very fortunate, right? That, and I'm sure you do, that you have the family close by to be able to connect with, so for anybody out there that, that you might not be around family or your family, like, I know everybody's family dynamics are not super great, but, try to find something or someone to be thankful for, and really just look at that piece, so if you got someone out there that, might not be in a super good spot, check in with them, check in with your friends, check in with your people. Because while we feel very fortunate and very thankful, there might be some people that might be on the opposite end of that. And just really, really, really love this time of year. And it's going to lead right into the holidays and Christmas and New Year's and Hanukkah, whatever your denomination is, whatever you're celebrating. Really kind of looking forward to moving into that month and a half of just familial activity, familial stuff. So just
sure. Well said.
Just looking forward to that time and that place, and looking forward to, and listen, Adam, super thankful for all your input, all your questions. Really, you're a guy who always jumps on this pod and has the comments, whether it's doesn't matter the team, the topic, you're always checking in. So we really appreciate you being a supporter, a listener.
Sure.
And with that, listen, let's hope the Flyers. It's Star Wars Day down at the rink today. So you got an afternoon, you got a matinee.
Perfect. Stanley Cup champs are in town. It's going to be fun.
You got the Flyers playing on. They're going to play the Vegas Golden Knights. Just excited to kind of be around. So have a good day. Go Flyers, and we'll check in with you in a little bit.
Peace.
Von C Brewing Company is a 20-barrel, 16,000 square foot microbrewery with a 2,500 square foot tasting room, including a spacious outside beer garden in Norristown, PA, in the heart of Montgomery County. The Von C family is part of the family that started C. Schmidt and Son Brewing in 1860. Stop in Wednesday through Sunday and taste a variety of draft and 16-ounce cans of originally brewed beer and tell them the Drunk on Broad crew sent you. Vonsey Brewing is located at 1210 Stenbridge Street, Suite 300 in Norristown. Cheers.
Team Clicks are the only glasses for real sports fans. With interchangeable arms, you can support all of your favorite teams, or even make and create custom options as well. These die-hard sports fans have realized that sports fans needed something other than face paint to show their love and passion for their teams. Go to teamclicks.com/DOB and show your love for your hometown team.
La Torrens curated collection of men's and women's watches is a perfect investment that lasts for years to come and fits perfectly with your every outfit and style. Our range of classic watches aren't just a great perfect formal and casual accessory, but a time machine that takes you back to memories. Explore our collection of timeless watches that can reflect your taste, personality, and personal style. Our exclusive collection of carefully curated, affordable luxury watches is what you need to make a personalized style statement. You can take pride in your prized possession, handing it over to the next generations as your most loved asset that they can also own and display with the same pride. These high-quality pieces stand the test of time, giving exceptional value and return on your investment. Go to la-touraine.com and use code DOB at checkout and get 10% off.
If you're looking for unique sports apparel, check out Streaker Sports. They've dug deep into the archives and have brought back some incredible defunct team logos and have even created entire defunct league collections. They also have collections paying homage to sports culture, including the Miracle on Ice, Slap Shot, Caddyshack, the Mighty Ducks, and even have a license with Wiffle Ball and USA Hockey. Only for Drunk on Broad listeners, use code BROAD at checkout to get 10% off anything at streakersports.com. Again, that's 10% off anything at streakersports.com with discount code BROAD.